worst kind. There has never been a worse kind. In body and mind. It's Tuesday today. We normally record on a Wednesday, but Conrad's gallivanting.
I have some gallivanting to do.
Gallivanting off to do his work, to do his job. Would that we all could be so privileged.
Oh yeah, lucky me.
No, today is quite the opposite for me. It's the first day in ages where I've not had family or work commitments. And I was going to have a really nice day, but I didn't sleep at all last night. Aww. So instead, I've got it's placed like a migraine, but it's not quite as bad as one, but it still fucking hurts. And on top of that, I'm having tired thoughts. Because as I say, I'm tired in body and mind. So I've got thoughts and what-if scenarios arriving unbidden in my head, such as, what if Ozzy Osbourne woke up one morning and he was a monkey? And there's nothing developed there. There's no funny scenario to spin off.
I honestly don't think anything would change.
End of.
Well, I think one thing would change. People would probably find it less horrific if he bit the head off a bat. They'd just go, that's nature.
That's true. It would be a lot more funny.
I like to just imagine Sharon and the kids just carrying on as normal with monkey, Ozzy there, not noticing that anything's different, and he's just losing his fucking mind. And he already struggled to communicate.
It would compound his horror, the fact that no one has noticed. So yeah, that's a thought.
Is the better monkey Ozzy Osbourne pun Fuzzy Osbourne or Ozzy Fuzz Paws?
Oh, the first one. The second one's
Osbourne.
Tenuous.
Yeah, they I had to say them out loud. Need Fuzzy Osbourne kind of works.
Yeah. The other thought, possibly the more nuanced and philosophically interesting one, is what if someone cooked a full roast dinner, put it up their ass, and then served it that way?
Like a far grosser turducken.
Yeah, the full roast goes up themselves. They waddle, I would imagine, up to the dinner table. This could be a restaurant, a theme restaurant.
Here we go.
Yeah, Dave and Buster Gut. Get a full roast up the arse, waddle over, then just pop a squat over the patron's dinner table, and then just let it come out again. Keep it warm, I imagine, like a sort of hot pot. These are the two thoughts I've had today. The only two thoughts that I've had all day.
This is what days off are for, is for having these kinds of thoughts.
I'd have liked to have brought a third thing to the table. Not the same table that dinner would be served on. But I feel like only coming to the dance, only coming to record Podquisition with two things instead of three is a disappointment, because, things tend to come in threes.
It's a violation of the rule of threes, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Three Musketeers. The three deadly sins. I'm not thinking right. There's so many things of three that I could have pulled from.
But you went with a 7.
I went straight to a 7, which in my mind, I'm so fucked right now. When you said 7, I was confused because I was sure...
You didn't know what was in the box, yeah.
I was sure... Well, yeah. A question that still boggles my mind. What was in the box? We never actually got to see it.
We didn't get to see it.
And if I don't see it on screen, I don't know what it is. I don't get context clues.
Welcome to Podquisition. We're all a bit fucked.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're all a bit fucked.
Was it
Everybody's
photos
off
of
game.
Kevin Spacey in there? Because that'd fucking scare me.
Tasteful nudes.
Yeah.
Of hopefully not Kevin Spacey.
Actually, no, you know what? If Kevin Spacey sent tasteful nudes, I'd rather they be of him than of
Yeah.
what he was
Yeah.
taking photos of.
Do
Do you remember when he did Christmas dinners? Do you remember when, after he was outed as a fucking monster,
Yeah.
he just carried on being Frank Underwood? He carried on being the role he was fired from and put YouTube videos up every Christmas Eve, or at least 2, and then never did it again. Where he's out being all like, you all thought I was not a monster, but I was, and you loved it, and I did it for the power.
What a fucking unhinged thing to do. Like, it's so beyond the pale.
I was actually reminded of it the other day, and I still can't believe it. Like, you can't say you admire the tenacity of it.
No!
Because he's a monster. It's like that old drill tweet that said, no, you cannot say you gotta hand it to the Taliban. You don't gotta
You do
hand
not
it
have
to
to
Kevin
hand it, no.
Spacey. Especially not with the things he'd want you to be handing him.
But you do have to hand it to me, a person who has video games to talk about. There we go, that's nice and smooth.
I think it's just when confronted with such blatant sociopathy, like, our brains can't really comprehend how it's possible.
Still haven't processed it. Like, I realise we've got to get to video games.
Yeah, we do.
But
we got time limits today, but you are correct. I don't know how did he not get sued for being his character while being heinous.
Well, you see, he was actually playing the iconic role of Bank Bunderwood in those videos.
But parody, that would be probably protected. Like, he could probably make a pretty easy case for that. But just to have the idea and not stop yourself.
Yeah, what did he think he'd get out of it?
Yeah.
Like, was it really just like, well, the balls are out, I might as well dip them? Or did he think he'd win? Did he think we'd all be like, you know what, right? What he did was fucking awful, but God, I forgot what a good actor he is. Hire him again, Netflix. Is that what he thought would happen? That he'd get away with it by displaying his chops? Welcome to Podquisition. I don't know why you two are distracting me from talking about
sorry.
video games.
How dare we?
Yeah.
Who's played things this week?
I've only played one thing.
We've played something, Laura. It's
should we talk about what we've played?
Yeah, probably salient to lead off because I'd say it's the biggest game that has come out so far.
I think it's a pretty big one, yeah.
Yeah, like this week. Obviously, we got the Switch 2 towards the end of the week, but
we got Elden Ring multiplayer to be playing.
We do.
Then.
We have played it together as well, and that was very fun. And now that I'm actually competent at the game, it would be fun to do it again with you.
Yeah, it takes a bit of... If you haven't played Elden Ring in a while and you jump into playing this, it's a bit fucking overwhelming.
Yeah, the onboarding isn't great. It's especially with sort of the characters and how they play. It's funny because, the onboarding's terrible, but the accessibility to try new builds is such that earlier today I was playing it and I remarked, like, this game has gotten me to try Soulsborne builds that I would never have otherwise tried. And that's impressive. I'm happiest behind a shield if I'm playing like Dark Souls or Elden Ring. So I have played as one of the characters a lot, the Guardian with the shield. But because everything's preset and fuss-free and you jump right in, I've been two-handing big heavy weapons as the raider and doing the lightly armoured, no shield at all characters where I wouldn't have done that before. So that's a triumph for the game.
If I don't have to stress about making a well-made build of a type, I'm much more willing to jump into that type if I don't have to fiddle and get it to work right.
Yeah, they've made it just simple and straightforward. It is an interesting game. It is interesting. I'm drafting the review as I play, and I realised that as I described how it shaved down a lot of Elden Ring to produce something different. On paper, it sounds like they just took a good game and decimated its features. But the result is so fit for purpose that once you see it in operation, it makes sense.
Yeah. It is, what if you were in the mood for an amount of Elden Ring that you knew a session wasn't going to be more than an hour. You're not going to lose, multiple hours to bashing your head against one boss.
No, it'd be about 10 minutes if you have the team I had this fucking morning.
Oh, yeah. Well, you don't want to think about the minutiae of the builds. You just want to go, let me throw my head at some Elden Ring gameplay, not stress about the numbers of it, not stress about being perfect, and just kind of get to the good bits. This, it's obviously not a replacement for a single player FromSoft game, but it does it speed runs you into the I'm in a chaotic fight up against the odds, a little underpowered for this, but I'm going to try and overcome the odds of it all.
Yeah. It's basically like a whirlwind tour through the oh shit, oh fuck, oh shit moments, but with this kind of fun little roguelike element attached, which I had to acclimate to it. But once I did, I've enjoyed it a lot, and I've played every class happily. With the Executor, not as much, just because the counter's not my thing, but it does have a high arcane stat, so I was thinking of bobbing it again and just sort of focusing on that side of it. Because the ultimate ability the Executor has is fucking ridiculous. Yeah, the characters are all good. Great fun, actually. And it's impressive just how well the roguelite elements have been integrated. As long as you don't mind your Elden Ring fucking hectic and chaotic as hell. But things like, cooldown abilities, like a character with an ultimate, sort of the kind of hero shooter type shit, something you'd expect to see in that. It's impressive just how well that's integrated in to help create this really snappy, breezy, fucking chaos, like pure anarchy version of Elden Ring.
And those special abilities, the more you learn the intricacies of them, they really do give the characters their own flavour. Again, a thing that, some of these are not, terribly well explained, but the more time you put into them, you start working out what they do. A lot of the character I was playing a lot of at first was, I forget the name of it, but the guy in the sort of animal pelt and animal skull with the big two-handed weapon.
Raider.
The Raider. And his special is he summons up a big tombstone out of the ground, and that does big damage when it's initially summoned. But I had questions about what other utility it had, because it leaves this big block in the middle of the square. Things you can do with that other than do big damage. If you're standing near it after it's been summoned, you get a damage buff, so it creates an area of increased damage. You can use it to do drop attacks from above. You can use it as a very quick and effective way to revive fallen co-op companions, even if they're on the maximum number of hits they would need to get back up. But you can also use it to just give someone breathing space. You can create a platform underneath someone so they have a second to breathe. If you've got a ranger, they can just stand on top of it and fire at the boss from a place of relative safety. It's the more you dig into these specials, you realize quite how much they specialize the character.
And in interesting ways as well. We were playing together when we stumbled upon the secondary feature of the Guardian's ultimate. The Guardian, very much a tank, specializes in halberds, big old shield. Its passive lets it block better. But its ultimate is he flies up in the air because he's sort of a bird man. he flies up in the air and then slams down with a big AoE. And that, very similar to the tombstone, will instantly revive anyone it hits.
But in a huge area.
It's got such a big radius that if both of your teams are down, and this is how I actually won my first victory over a Night Lords, like over the final boss of a run, was that. Like, that saved us, because both of my teammates were down. I had the ultimate. I revived them, and that bought us, like, the last little bit of time we needed to get, like, its final bit of health gone. So, yeah, it's interesting how the characters have indirect or unusual ways to play support. Because there isn't... I've certainly not unlocked anything that you could call a dedicated support or healer character. Everything's got its potential for damage output, or if they're slightly less focused on damage, it would be, like the Guardian, like a tank. But these interesting ways, because you revive characters by hitting them, it is interesting how some of the moves that characters can do can be used for that purpose. And the other interesting ways that you can play support, like the little things that the relics that you unlock that you can attach to characters, give you various buffs or little bonuses that you can carry persistently into expeditions. And some of those can actually turn you into a fun support character. Like, there's one where everyone but you gets a stamina boost. Like, that's one you can equip. Or your healing flasks will heal everyone else as well. Same with items. If you use a consumable, it will apply to everyone else. So there are ways that you could build up. You could take one of these existing characters and play a more supportive role. But the baseline stats and abilities will still always make them, very viable aggressors as well.
Yeah. My favorite character to be playing as, it's not one of the first ones that you have at the start, but you unlock it. You don't have to beat the boss of the first run to unlock them, but you have to reach that final boss the first time, is the Duchess.
Yes.
You
described her when you did the beta test, and you weren't fucking kidding.
Yeah, so for anyone who didn't listen, didn't hear the last time I talked about this character, she's very quick. She plays almost like a Bloodborne character.
Looks
she's
like
got,
one
this...
as well. She's very Bloodborne-ish.
Yeah, she's got this double dash. She's like very maneuverable. She's not really about doing damage herself so much, as she is her support abilities, which is the big one. Every 7 seconds, she can activate an ability that replays the last couple of seconds of damage that the whole team has done. So if, let's say, someone manages, like, one of, like, a pop of bleed that does, like, a huge chunk of damage, or one of those stun attacks where you stab an enemy in the face and do a big chunk of damage, you can pop this ability, and that big chunk of damage will play a second time.
It's such a clever, cool idea for an ability.
Yeah, and it synergizes well for her, like, not just as a support for other players, because, like, her default starting weapon gets pretty good bleed damage. So, like, the idea, if you're just soloing with her, is you apply bleed, you cause the bleed to stack multiple times, but you could very viably, like, she's quite fragile. You can play defensive, you can play dodging, and just go, you two are essentially doing double damage on your biggest hits. I'm gonna stay out the way, and you can still get the party doing more damage than they would otherwise be doing that way. Like, it's real fun.
I do wonder if they're gonna patch her. Just from the standpoint that for an ability that is so fucking potentially devastating, the fact it's not her ultimate, and
so
the cooldown on it is really quick.
They have slightly nerfed the amount of damage that gets replayed compared to the beta, so this is slightly less than she was doing before. But I still think it's great, because you have to constantly be clock watching. You have to be watching, is that ult ready, because it's so frequently ready. And I think, like, that is it feels like part of the trade-off when I'm playing her is I have to keep looking away from the boss for a second to go, am I ready to do that ability? And that's a lot of looking away from the enemy to be doing to get the most out of that power.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like, it's not that it doesn't require good timing and an observation. Sometimes, though, when I'm playing as her, I'm like, this just feels like free damage.
I agree.
And I'm not complaining.
Really like her.
I do, in fact, worry about them patching it, and I am going to use her to the fullest until they potentially do.
Well, the other thing about her is, you can, in theory, have multiple people play the same character, but you're really disincentivized to have multiple of her on your team, because she works best when you have two other people who are going to be doing those big hits. She's not a character that, like, you could stack a team of 3 of and be exponentially better as a result. And I wonder if that will save her from getting, like, completely nerfed.
Yeah, possibly. I hope it doesn't happen. Because she's fucking awesome. But then again, every character is pretty damn good. Like, weirdly enough, the character I played the least is probably the one I was most successful with, and that was the Raider, the one you mentioned earlier. Just because of the potential you can get with, if you're lucky enough to find the right kind of weapon, the damage output the Raider can throw out is scary. I came really close to getting the one fucking Night Lord that I am devoting my life to beating it because I hate it. It's the poisony one that does loads of purple electric and constantly fucking bites you and chomps you, and then spits you out, and then does a massive AoE when its health's like in the last quarter, and then just TPKs you. I hate that thing. But I got completely off topic, especially because I then started thinking about the trolls that throw exploding pots and how they can all die in a fucking fire. I really like this game.
I'm glad, because you were really not feeling it that first morning. Like, you put it down going, I am annoyed with this game enough, I need to walk away from it. And I was like, come back to it though, Steph. Come play it with me. We're going to get you there. I think there's a game here you'll really like.
And yeah, I loved Elden Ring. I wanted to like this. Because of the onboarding, I wasn't getting on with it at first, and I had to reacclimate myself to how Elden Ring feels to play. And I do still have criticisms about some of the way... I think some of the ways in which this game can be really disheartening and discouraging is not done on purpose. It's just a function of how the game is structured. But there are times... I tell you what, I've seen quite a few rage quits from people. Yeah. And I don't blame them. I actually don't blame them. Because when you bust a player down a level for dying, you're essentially sending the message that the more you struggle, the more we're going to make this difficult for you. And if you lose out big early, I've been tempted to be like, I'll be there and I'll be like, I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to do this run, I mean. Like, I've got... The run is far from over. I lost 3 levels on this boss that we didn't even kill because the fucking Fortnite fog came in. So all we got out of the last 10 minutes was less than we started with. I don't want to do this run anymore. And there are other little ways in which it doesn't quite hit at times the way another roguelike might. One of them is the fact that, like, a lot of the ways a run ends if you do like lose, which is most of them, certainly in my experience. A lot of them, it feels underwhelming. It's like, wow, all of this builds up to like a one shot that wiped us all out in a second, and it's just, it feels like a disappointing way to end, which is not how you want to feel to any consistent degree.
One thing I think this game could benefit from is some ability to, as the 3 of you on a thing go, I would like to vote to leave this run with no penalty. And if all three of you vote such, the run ends there as it is. To have the ability to go, we all kind of know that this run is fucked, and we all agree that that's the case, and none of us really wants to push through to the end of this day to deliberately or not so, or just because of happenstance die to this boss and then leave. I don't want to be a dick and quit and leave you all in the lurch, but if you all feel the same, can I just get out and try another one?
Yeah, and I think that might be something From has to look at, because I agree with you, that would be good, but we shouldn't be in a position where that would be good. But it might be unavoidable just because of the way it's structured. I don't know if you could address the disheartening aspect without fundamentally changing what the game is. So yeah. I think it's definitely something to think about.
And you know what? There is a thing that makes me almost lean against what I was just saying there, which is I had a run last night where I was feeling that way. I was on level 1 at the night 1 boss. There was only 2 of us. One person had already rage quit the run, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to stick with it. And despite being level 1 on the first night's boss, I got through to the third night boss and got it 2/3 of the way down. I pulled that run back from fucking nowhere after, losing all my souls, losing levels, the fuck happened here, and pulled it through. And there's a bit of me that really changed in that moment where I did go, no run's really gone, is it? I can fucking do this. And I agree, the disheartening aspect is really strong and it is a problem. But it just takes one run where you pull a win out of your ass that doesn't feel like it should have happened, and then it goes, maybe it's good that you're forcing me to stick here, huh? And that's not good game design, but it's where I felt at the time.
Yeah, there are many moments playing this where it feels awesome. And obviously, we've spent a long time now, really picking it up. It's just the fact that I would be lying if I said I didn't. I'd be lying if I said I loved every second of it. Some of those seconds have been truly miserable. But in the grand scheme of the other criticism I'd offer is not to make it any easier, but just to give you something to do and work towards. I think there should be skill trees. Even if they're just for cosmetics or something, something that isn't just those randomly assorted relics as persistent things. And I saw someone on Reddit, I was trying to Google something about an ability and stumbled on a post where someone had mentioned they've gone through it and completed a lot of it and are feeling the fresh things to do running out. And it doesn't quite have the same layer of constant surprise that roguelites often have. And nothing really between runs to feel like I'm building something that lasts. And just from a sheer psychological aspect of keeping a sense of, I'm invested in what I'm striving for here. I do think there should be something more to do between runs and something else you're unlocking. And I truly do mean for the vapid sake of unlocking something, because I genuinely think it will make a big difference.
Agreed. So yeah, Elden Ring Nightreign, pretty fun with caveats.
Yep.
What about you, Conrad? What you been playing this week?
Clair Obscur.
How has that been going?
I am so in love with every character in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very disappointed that nobody told me that there was a foot guy in this.
Didn't want to spoil foot guy,
but that's great. Love foot guy.
Yeah.
I'm still really focused in on Mael as my kind of main damage contributor.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, I haven't used CL at all. Except at a point where I suddenly had to. And didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
I was a bit the same for a while. I had a slight, like... there were characters I just didn't touch for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you guys are traveling around, moving, which character do you use to be your, avatar?
I cycle. I switch. I think I've probably gravitated toward Mael most, but I do tend to switch around a lot.
I did Mael a lot. I wanted to be running around as Lune because the flying animation's cool, but it's asymmetrical, and that the autism didn't like that.
Plus, she trips up a lot on little rocks, and I don't think it makes her any slower, but it feels slower. It feels like she keeps stoppy-starty.
See, I use Lune exclusively because of the glide. I find the footsteps annoying when I know that there's an option to not have them. It's just a weird quirk for me that...
No, I get that, and I wish I enjoyed the glide more, because in theory, a glide is a fucking cool thing.
Yeah.
I mean, given what you just said, it's got nothing to do with the fact that she's got no shoes or socks on, right?
No, I'm not the foot guy.
Oh yeah, sorry, Jonathan.
Jonathan's the foot guy. Yeah, I'm really, really loving it. I guess, I could say this. This isn't actually going to be spoiling anything to anyone who hasn't. I'm at the Axons.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that sort of contextualizes where I am a bit.
Okay, so you're doing the thing to go to the paint. You're on your way to the paint.
I'm on my way. I'm and the pacing of it is so good that I had not really observed how much time I had put into this.
Right.
And some of it is that, I have it on, I go do something. There are a few hours in there, in my total, that aren't active play. And there's a fair bit of, I'm just staring at the pictos and trying to figure out what I want to do. But 40 hours went by real quick. And I'm not entirely sure how it happened.
It's a game that's real easy to just kind of lose yourself in.
Yeah, I'm thrilled by that. And then the other thing I just wanted to say, I started playing it. I got Xbox adaptive joysticks.
Oh yeah.
And so I did want to talk about those a little bit. I agree with everything you've said about these in terms of build quality for value. The configuration, I 100% agree that one more button on this would change everything.
Yeah, it's so close, right?
It is so close. I'm playing Clair Obscur with it. I did make a configuration that makes it playable with only one of them.
Yeah.
But it's not an ideal experience. It is a really substandard way to do it. With both, I've got a configuration that I really love. The only things that trip me up is if I need to skip a turn, or if I need to, if I want to switch which character I'm running around with on the overworld. Those two things I have to do with keyboard and mouse. Everything else works great. It's very comfortable. In a dual analog game.
Yeah.
My hope was that I would be able to use the button configuration on the left as a D-pad, and they're too far down the controller with the way that the curve is shaped for my fingers are fairly long, but reaching the trigger and bumper while still having access to the buttons as a directional pad is just not functional. So, and that's a bummer, because I really need a good D-pad for certain things, and Microsoft does not make one that I'm aware of. Please, someone feel free to correct me. But I don't know of a good D-pad from Microsoft, so I can't even, get an actual Xbox controller to pair with an adaptive joystick to keep them separate, because I'm just still gonna run into a bad D-pad. So I guess I'm gonna keep using a DualShock when I want a D-pad. But, I really like these. They're an incredible value. I'm shocked that the pair of these cost me less than if I'd bought an Xbox One controller.
It is one thing, the caveat aside, while we're praising Xbox of, obviously, hey, sort your fucking shit out with.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. I don't want to encourage anybody to buy this. No. But
yeah, I say that sentence at the start of then going. One thing I will say in defense or in praise of Microsoft is they have been really good this past 5 years or so at, when they release accessibility-focused hardware, making sure that shit is as cheap as possible. Going, even at the expense of functionality occasionally,
right?
Going, it is affordable to get this thing. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that. Really loving Clair Obscur still. I'm hoping that I will be done in another 2 weeks at the rate that I'm going. But yeah. I've also started digging around in some of the places that were considered dangerous early game, and finding, weirdly, that they were never that dangerous to begin with. A lot of them. I just never went in there because it's a danger. I was like, all right, well, fuck, this game's already screwing me on the overworld. No, you can poke around in those. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Yeah, good game. That's it.
I've been playing some stuff this week that I'm going to quickly talk about. Season 2 of Games for the Playdate has started this past week. So for the next 3 months, every week I'm going to have a couple of things to talk about for my little yellow handheld with the little crank on it. This is the first week of that new batch of regularly weekly games. I'm pretty into the ones they've got this week. The one that I've been really stuck on, I've been playing it during the show today, is Dig Dino. It's a really simple cartoonish animal archaeology game. You go into each particular round and you've just got a square top-down grid view of an archaeological dig site, and you have a certain number of actions to explore to try and find dinosaur bones that are part of trying to assemble the skeleton of a specific dinosaur, or resource artifacts that you'll keep in a little museum, or money and valuable things that you can use to upgrade your build between runs. And you have a series of tools available to you and a set number of actions for this exploration of the dig site. And it's just very basic things each action could be something like dig down 1 square further, or chip away at breaking a rock, or scan a certain segment of the board and find out 1 layer deep from what's currently revealed, is there anything to find? So you can sort of scan for what spaces might be worth exploring, to try and completely excavate out sometimes large objects to make progression. And when you run out of resources, you get told how much cash you got from that dig. You go and upgrade your various things so that maybe you can dig more squares down in a single dig, or do more damage to a rock in a single hit, so that you are getting further in the dig with each go. It's a really simple little loop, but there is something really satisfying about just being 3 or 4 squares deep and catching sight of a tiny piece of a bone and going, ooh, quick, how many actions do I have left? Do I have enough to dig that far down in the spaces that I expect that piece of skeleton extends to fully expose it and get it out before I run out of actions? Very charming, and a game that definitely is playable on little 5-minute bursts between other things. Very much enjoying that. There's one called Fulcrum Defenders, which is by the developers of Into the Breach and FTL. it's kind of like asteroids. If you were stuck in the center and the asteroids were being sucked into your orbit towards you. It is an arcade shooter where you are using the crank to rotate yourself in the center of the screen, like, where on the circle do you want to be aiming to fire? But unlike a lot of your sort of, like, asteroid-style inspired things like this, that go all in on very quickly, throwing lots of things at you and being very visually chaotic, and you having to worry about dodging, here, everything starts off pretty slow and ramps up in speed, but your weapons at the start overheat if you spam firing too fast. It's not a case of like, bam, 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 fire as many bullets as you can and hope you hit. You have to be a little more thoughtful about your shots because you don't want to overheat and have a cooldown period where you can't shoot your weapon. And every minute or so, you'll get offered upgrades for your build that might be things like, every time you fire a shot backwards, or if your shot hits the edge of the screen, it bounces and duplicates. Sometimes it'll be extra weapon types available on cooldowns, like fire a ship out that will go in whatever direction you've currently got the crank pointed. And at most, runs are 10 minutes. They are capped at 10 minutes, and they just escalate dramatically in difficulty across that 10 minutes. And it is just a arcade shooter where you cannot dodge, so you have to be thoughtful with your shots and keep from things getting close enough to get pulled into orbit and damage you. I also really like for that one that if you go, I think it's like 10-15 seconds without taking damage, you get a segment of your health back. So you are constantly getting health back if you are playing well, that I really like. It's nice that it is designed around the idea that this is a handheld and that you're not, like, something that is purpose designed to go, I've got 10 minutes, I can play a round of this, and I'm not going to be like, oh, I've got to get off at my stop at the bus and I'm still mid-run. I didn't expect this run to go as long as it did. The other thing in the first week of Playdate Season 2 games that is not a game, it is a baffling, fascinating experience, is Blippo Plus, which is, for anyone who's not looked at the Playdate, this thing is not designed to play video. It has like a little black and white, low-resolution screen. Blippo Plus is, what if you accidentally tuned into an alien TV network? I hate to make this comparison, because I think this does it a disservice, but it's the only thing I can think to compare it to that people will have seen. It feels kind of like someone saw that one episode of Rick and Morty where it's all just the alien TV channels. Here is a bunch of channels to flip through, and it's not like you're selecting specific programs to watch. You pick a channel, and it's going to be playing programs on a loop for a bit and come back around and you see what you see on whatever channel you tuned into. And there is a surprising amount of, like, interesting content, live-action video content that has been made for this, that feels way more fleshed out than it should. For this... I sat and watched a little Doctor Who knockoff, where aliens had found Earth artifacts that they'd misunderstood the purpose of and were using as like, this is the Earth technology that'll get us out of this trouble, and it's some regular piece of Earth tech that they've misunderstood what it does. And I sat and watched that for like 10 minutes and was having a good time watching an episode of that, watching an alien cooking show. I was surprised that there was a good like 40 plus minutes of stuff that I ended up watching. And it seems like they're adding about that much content every week over the next 3 months, so I am kind of intrigued by this just weekly dose of, do you want to watch some weird little alien TV shows on your Playdate? I don't quite know what to make of it, but it's an interesting curio to have on here, and it's definitely unlike anything else I've seen people try and wedge into this device. So that's what I've been playing on the Playdate this week. What about you, Steph? You been playing anything else this week?
Well, a PS5 Pro is coming
that
to
it
my
has,
possession.
yeah.
Mostly because one of my writing jobs, I was like, you know what, this money, I don't want to go on the fucking council tax and rent. I'm going to get a treat. And the treat wasn't the PS5 Pro, it was me upgrading to a PS5 Pro, so that when these kids visit, I don't have to hear the word Astrobot, which I loved that game once, but I have heard Steph can I play Astrobot so much that is the treat, is some peace and quiet and me being able to use a PS5 without harassment and yelling and crying about it. So they're made up with me. I'm really popular at the moment. But I decided, if I'm gonna buy that peace of mind, I might as well upgrade with it. And yeah,
it's not that different, is it?
It really isn't. No. I want to say Horizon Forbidden West looks nice.
Yeah.
It's still I find it quite disgusting that we're still on the Pro compromising between frame rate and resolution. The compromisey, not as much high res as it could be, but targeting 60 FPS is nice, and it does feel. I do feel like I'm seeing something a bit better than I would. I haven't tried too much stuff yet, but I haven't noticed it on other stuff quite yet. Horizon Forbidden West, I do feel like, yes, this looks better than an original PS5 game.
Yeah.
The Last of Us I put on, and I had to laugh at the idea that I'm going to test brand new console tech by playing this game that's over a decade old and 2 generations back. I can't say I really noticed. Nothing jumped out as noticeably better.
The games where I've noticed it the most is the games that didn't have 60 FPS modes before, but now do. Stuff like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is really nice to go back to with a 60 FPS mode.
I have been meaning to get back to that. Good idea.
Yeah, there is a handful of games where the Pro is like, hey, do you just want to play at 60 and not feel like you're compromising to do that? Here you go. Here is a less compromised 60, or a 60 that didn't exist before. Those are great. A lot of the games, I'm like, look, if I go back and forth between the two of them, sat in the same room, I can see the difference. If I boot it up on the Pro first, I look at it and go, I assumed this is how it was going to look anyway. There's not really anything looking at stuff on the Pro without side-by-siding it that goes, I noticed the generational leap here.
And I think that's the thing as well, is I'm not gonna sit there with the two consoles. Like, I'm not gonna run into the room where the kids play, back and forth, on a day that we might be playing the same thing, just to see, so I can sit down and go, got my money's worth.
I mostly noticed it because, I've got the Pro set up down in the living room because that's where I've got the bigger 4K screen. But when I'm streaming in the office, that's where the non-Pro sits. And, that's meant I have sometimes for work been, playing on the big TV on the Pro and then come up to record some footage or something and had the non-Pro and gone, oh, I was playing this 5 minutes ago. I can see that it looks worse now. But if your big selling point is, if you keep around the old, the non-Pro version, and you happen to go from one to the other, you will see the difference then. That's not a selling point that most people are gonna get anything out of.
No. I do still stand by the old video I did when the PS5 Pro was announced, of just how cheeky it fucking is that they charge that much for what you get. But it is what it is. But yeah. I have played Horizon Forbidden West with it. That's what I was actually going to make the point of having played. Yeah, I think it's funny that when I played it originally, it was around the same time as Elden Ring, and Horizon Forbidden West really suffered as a result of that, because I was like, these bog standard so-called AAA open worlds aren't cutting it now because I have played Elden Ring. And here I am playing it these years later, and I'm like, I kind of want to stop this and play Elden Ring Nightreign some more. just bad timing for that game.
The Horizon series has eternally suffered with, if this released at a time where I had nothing else that I wanted to be playing, this game would seem amazing. But it's always in proximity to other things that make it look less good.
Mm.
Like, every time it's had a release, it's never been well-timed.
And, like, I loved the first one. But there's something about the second, and it might just be that it's that again, but not as... It just doesn't grab me the way the first one did. It's not bad. It's competent. I think it's a bit wonky. Like, it doesn't feel great to control half the time. But it is competently made. It looks very nice. Like, the colours are gorgeous. But yeah, like, I'm still playing it a bit, but only for a little while in between, like, just as a break from Nightreign, and I don't think I'm gonna, like, see it through. It just doesn't have that staying power. Plus, I've been thinking about Killzone a lot lately, and I have started to resent Horizon again, because Guerrilla is not gonna go back to Killzone, it seems, because they've got Horizon. And I miss Killzone. I really miss Killzone.
Yeah. What about you, Comrade? Did you play anything else this week?
Nope.
Well, in that case, should we talk about a little bit of news and then wrap up for the week?
Let's do it.
Sure. So we have some positive news.
I love positive news.
Yeah, something not terrible came out of the games industry this week. This week's news is ZeniMax Workers United is now the biggest video game developer union in the United States.
Fucking A.
Over 300 QA testers from across ZeniMax have reached an agreement with Microsoft, including wage increases, salary minimums, and crediting procedures. Hooray! This will go. This has to go through voting from the union. That vote is happening on the 20th of June, but once it's gone through, it should mean that all developers, including all staff at Bethesda Studios, will have what is being called the biggest collective bargaining agreement yet of any of the major game unions. That is very good news.
And if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere. There's nobody who has the resources, experience, and capability in this business in terms of dealing with unions than Microsoft.
Yep. So for context, as a reminder, negotiations for this contract started 2 years ago. This has been going on for about 2 years. The union formed a couple of years ago and has been negotiating this since. 2 months ago, union employees there threatened to go on strike if there wasn't an agreement reached, and that threat of going on strike seemingly worked. Finally, we've reached an agreement. We don't have all of the specifics, but yeah, the basics of it seem to be pay us more, increase the minimum amount people will be paid, and make sure that people are credited for the work they do. That includes QA workers. Don't fucking sweep them under the rug and pretend that their work isn't important, or try and scrub them from credits if they leave before a project's done. Credit people properly so they can get future work. Not much more to say about that. It's just good news.
Mm-hmm.
And that's rare. We don't get a lot of that.
I love it.
It's just... Honestly, I think that's the only piece of news that's really worth talking about this week. It's just good news. A union made progress and got good gains.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
And on that delightful note, should we wrap up for the week?
Sure, why not? So, I've got a bit of good news as well.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah. Laura, you do stuff.
Me?
That is great news. Yeah.
Oh.
How do we share the great news?
Well, if you want to share the great news, you can find all the stuff I do at Laura K. Buzz on all the places on the internet. If you're listening to this the day it goes up, the big one that I want to tell you about is Friday, June 6th at 4 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. The Access Ability Summer Showcase for 2025 is going to be airing. Tune in for 52 minutes and 20 plus games, trailers for a bunch of cool, interesting upcoming video games that are going to tell you at the time that you see the trailer what accessibility stuff they've got going on, so you know if that game that looks interesting is going to be playable for you or not in advance. So you don't have to wait until launch day and everyone's excited to play it, and then you pick it up and go, oh, I gotta get a refund for this, I can't actually play it. We have made an effort to have, I cannot guarantee that every disabled person will find a game that works for them, but I have done everything I can to make sure that for as many categories of disability as possible, there's going to be at least a couple of different things in a couple of different genres that should be playable for you, so you've got options of things to get excited about. So that will be on Twitch and YouTube at Laura K. Buzz. Over on YouTube, you can also see it as a premiere at the same time with American Sign Language, British Sign Language, or audio descriptions. Big thanks to Many Cat Studios, who sponsored the British Sign Language version of the stream this year. Absolutely integral in making sure that British Sign Language version could happen. Go check it out. The Accessibility Summer Showcase, June 6th, that's on Friday, 4 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Please go check it out. Conrad, what about you? Where are you at on the internet?
Oh, you could find me at Conrad Zimmerman on Blue Sky. You can hang out with me on Twitch at twitch.tv/thatconradzimmerman. I stream on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays. You can buy anti-capitalist propaganda and Jimquisition merchandise at mercenarycreative.com. And everything I do online gets supported through Patreon at patreon.com/fistshark. And you know who else has a Patreon? Stephanie Sterling.
Absolutely correct. Patreon.com/Jimquisition, which supports this podcast and the web series, and the Jimquisition.com, where I post reviews. There are 2 reviews that went up this week, one for Onimusha 2, the remaster, and Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, which is a game with a big fucking mouth. Other than that, on June 17th,
June 17.
June 17th, a video game I worked on is coming out. It's called Date Everything. You might have seen it. It blew up on social media and everything. By Sassy Chap Games. That's June 17th, Date Everything. I wrote for that game. I'm incredibly proud of my involvement with that. And that's not the only game I worked on coming out. On June 24th, Quantum Witch releases, a humorous plotformer that bases a lot of its story on growing up queer in deeply religious environments. I wrote one of the main story arcs for that. So yeah, again, incredibly proud. I'm really rooting for that game because I think it's special. So yeah, there's those 2. I have been announced for a match in Manchester, Pinfall Pro Wrestling, August 10th. I will be in Leeds on July 18th, details to follow. Other than that, you know, you can check out my work on Vampire Survivors as well. I'm always coming up with stuff for that, in terms of, lore and shit. Because they keep asking me back. So that's good. Other than that, thank you all so much for joining us and supporting the show. I'm so sleepy. I'm going to go do a little sleepy. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.